How can you become less nervous when dating a really attractive woman? Hi there, men's dating coach Harry Wilmington here, founder of introvertdatingsuccess.com. And on today's show, we're going to be answering a Reddit question from a guy that is very, very nervous about dating this woman that he finds very, very pretty and out of his league. And he wants to know how he can handle himself. If you're watching this on YouTube, be sure to hit the subscribe button and the little bell icon to be notified of when I put up daily videos. Also, be sure to go to the website to check out my free ebook, Texting Like a Boss, as well as clicking on the tip jar tab to show your support, the links of which can be found in the description below and at the website as well. Let's go ahead and get into it. So I wanted to read this guy's question because this is a situation that a lot of men go through when they're actually attracted to a pretty woman that agrees to go out with them. Like, even though she said yes, you may still be facing some doubts about why she picked you or if you're even worth her time in the first place. And so because this is something guys go through, I thought I'd answer his question, and I actually answered it to him on Reddit, but I figured I'd read you his question here and then what my response was. So the question goes like this. He says, so I'm going on a date with a girl next week. I'm 18 years old and this is my first real date. We met 6 months ago and I got her Instagram. Then we started texting and I got her number. Now I asked her on a date and she said yes. We have been talking and I like her, but I've never been on a date. In parentheses, he says, I've had girlfriends, but always met them at school and got to know them there. She's really pretty, and I have no idea why she agreed to go on a date with me because she is so far out of my league. I'm already nervous for the date, even though it's 1 week away. I sometimes get awkward when talking to cute girls, especially if they're showing interest too, and I feel like it's going to happen there. How can I overcome that? So, like I said, this is a situation a lot of guys go through, and I wanted to give him some of my insights because I felt the same way back in my early 20s when I had questions on really attractive, gorgeous-looking women, and I went to a college that had like some of the best-looking women in the nation going there, and in the beginning, it'd be really, really hard to talk to them, to be around them, because I just didn't really have a lot of confidence about myself, and I was kind of like this guy, like, why would this woman want to talk to me? I'm just me, and I don't think I look that great. So here's what I told him. I'll put it in bullet points. So the first part is this. I said, fun fact, pretty women have the hardest time dating for this very, very reason. This is very true because a lot of men see them and think that they're so pretty that they probably already have a boyfriend, or that they'll look at the woman and how hot she is and then look at himself and think, well, I don't look as great. I don't have a six pack. I don't have a high paying job. Therefore, I would not be of value to her. So I'm going to just cut myself out of the equation altogether. Okay. But the reality check, and I said to this guy, is that as nervous as you are about this date, she's probably equally as nervous, because the thing is, as much as men might think a certain woman is hot, women live with themselves on a day-to-day basis, okay? And they know that they have flaws, whether they have irritable bowel syndrome, whether they're not the cleanest person in terms of keeping their house together, whether they have emotional issues, whether they've experienced trauma that they know can be baggage for new relationships. You don't know, but she does. So you have to understand that women are going on these dates with almost even a worse perception, because they're thinking, this guy finds me so attractive, I'm going to completely let him down once he realizes that I have flaws. Therefore, it's probably best to not go out with him. And that may be a reason why really high attractive women are rejecting you, is because they feel like you're going to reject them once you get to know the real them. And women are very, very nervous about that fact. They know that there's going to be a day when you get up out of bed with her and she's going to have bad breath and her hair is not going to be done. And what does she look like without makeup on? Is it like not the best look? And she doesn't want to be judged for that. So she's going to try to pick guys that seem like it's not going to be the biggest deal if those sides of her come out. Okay. But understand, they're equally as nervous because they're just as in the head about themselves and what perception they're giving off and what's going to happen if that breaks as you are, okay? So that's the first thing I said with them, is that they're probably judging themselves even more harshly than you ever would. I said, secondly, if she said yes to the date, very, very important, guys, okay? If a woman that is highly attractive to you says yes to a date, that means that on her end of things, there's already some kind of interest there. It might not be a full-blooded interest yet, but the fact that she's giving you that chance, somewhere subconsciously in her head is saying, this could possibly go somewhere. I want to investigate further. Okay. So you don't need to have to go on this date and think you got to now overly convince her by overdoing and over talking and saying all these emotional things to get her interested. Okay. Like, you can go on the date knowing that by her saying yes, it means that however you were in the process of meeting her, she's cool with that version of you already. So which ideally would be your authentic version, since you probably didn't think you'd have a shot at getting with her. So she said yes to the date. She's already on some level saying yes to the version of you that you are. So you can go on this date and just be that version even more so. Like, you don't have to try to change it to a different person to think that this thing's going to work out, okay? Because she's already saying yes, okay? Thirdly, if she said yes to the date, that means on some level she also sees you as potentially being in her league, okay? Because I know, or even better, a lot of times women tend to date upward, meaning they're going to try to date a guy that they think either has more money than them, has a better job, or it doesn't have to be, it does not even combine to that stuff. It could easily be something as like, she might think you're more emotionally intelligent than her. She might think that you have your life put together more than her. And so she might actually see you as her version of dating up. So while you're sitting there doubting yourself and you're judging her ability to be, your ability to be in her league based on her looks, she's judging you on a whole other set of things that you might not consider. And honestly, there are a lot of women that actually are afraid to date the pretty boys and the jocks and the ones that are more popular because they feel as though that other guy looks so good and is so popular and has so much money that he's going to probably cheat on her, or at the very least not be as faithful to the option of dating her as a guy that might be lesser in looks, but also more apt to be faithful to her. And that's a real thing. Like, there's a lot of, and you can just observe this in daily life. There's a lot of average guys walking around that are married to hot chicks. And I said on a previous show, I watched Married at First Sight. And the first season, there's this woman that was like absolutely gorgeous. And the guy that she got connected with was a guy that had like a few little warts on his face here and there. And he looked just kind of like this scraggly looking guy. And the first look she took at him was like, oh no, this is not what I asked for. Oh no. Fast forward to like, what's it been, 6 years later, and they have 2 kids now. They've been married since the show. They never got divorced. She fell more in love with him on the show for his personality, for how he cared about people, for him being adventurous, all these other things that were being judged. But if she had just gone off of how he looked, it would have never happened. So there are some of you guys out there that might not be in the best situation in terms of your looks. Like, you might not be ever on a 10 on a 1 out of 10 scale, okay? But if you're able to show off the other reasons that you should be considered a pick for women, whether it's you're kind, you're generous, you know how to be in certain situations, you're cordial, you know, are willing to sacrifice for her, and vice versa. Like, those are the things that in terms of a long term are going to be more important, because women know looks are going to fade. Like, their looks are going to fade way before ours do. So that's why they're not going to be so heavily judging on that fact. But if you're just judging it based on she looks good and I don't, that's going to be a problem. But again, women tend to date up. So she's already looking at you as you probably are higher on the scale than the majority of other guys that she's dated. And I've been in situations where I wasn't making the most money. Most women that I dated had made more money than me. I've been in situations where, you know, I wasn't necessarily in the best department or in the best situation of my life, but I still knew how to treat women. I still know how to make them feel like they're the best thing on the earth. And as a result, I was still able to date despite those alleged shortcomings. Now imagine if I'd been a guy that was all down on myself and thought, well, now I'm taking away the blessing of letting her see me as potentially higher in the ranks than I put myself, because it's all perspective. And in the dating realm, her perspective of you is more important than your perspective of you. So you have to understand, if she has a certain perspective of you, it's not your job to ruin it or to try to correct her, because that's going to result in these women coming to your side like, yeah, he's really not like the guy that I thought he was. And he really is. He really does make a point. He really isn't like as handsome as I could probably get. You know what? I'm going to agree with him and not date him. And now you shot your own self in the foot. So please stop doing that, guys, because I know some of you guys out there are doing it. And then lastly, I said, what really changed my mindset about this whole thing about pretty women and whatever is that I had the fortune of my second senior year in college. I lived with a theater friend of mine, because I was in a theater program and she was in a theater program. She was a couple of grades lower than me, and she needed a roommate. And we had been friends in the theater. We never hooked up with each other. So I said, okay, cool, no problem. And as I lived with her, I'd have guys come up to me time and time again saying, oh my God, this girl is so hot. Like, how do you like avoid keeping your hands off her? Like, I'd be wanting to stare at her all the time. And she was pretty. She, body-wise, face-wise, hair-wise, she was like a 10 out of 10, okay? But I lived with her on a daily basis. And this is a woman that was not the cleanest. She would leave pieces of her hair wigs and weaves around the carpet and stuff. There'd be times where I would leave town for like a week or two and I'd come back and the place would be in complete disarray, no dishes cleaned, the bathroom was messed up, and she had like a irritable bowel syndrome that was really, really bad. So like when she went to the bathroom, she would go to the bathroom. And there'd be times where, I remember there was one time where like our toilet broke and I was gone and she didn't go to maintenance to try to get it fixed. Like she just let it sit. So I came back to go to the bath and I was going to go to the bathroom and I opened the toilet up and there's just brown, everywhere brown. She didn't try to clean it up. She didn't try to get maintenance to come right away. I was gone for a week, so she could have had time to fix this up. No, nothing, not at all. Didn't try to put a plunger to it. Just let it sit there. And this is one of the most gorgeous women that I've ever met. So what that taught me was that, oh, this is all facade. Like, because how you are on the outside, it is great. It's what arouses us. It what makes us want to have sex with them in the first place. But once you get past the sex part, what are the other 95% of things I'm going to deal with outside of the bedroom with this person? And what you find is that a lot of pretty women, and just a lot of women in general, like they put on that facade of having it all together, but they do not. And they have things that are going to annoy you. They have things that times are going to be argumentative. They're going to have times where they're flighty and they switch their opinions about stuff within the same sentence. And as you get to have a more realistic expectation of how women can be, the outer shell becomes less important to where it makes you less nervous. Because now when I see pretty women, the first thing I think is, wow, she's hot. And then the second thing I think is, but what is she hiding behind that hotness? I need to investigate that before I get hooked on her hotness, because if this hotness goes away, I got to deal with the rest of the stuff. And if the rest of the stuff isn't good, I'm going to have a problem. And that's what allows me to be able to date very hot, attractive, cute, fine, feminine women, is because I look past the pretty facade and go into, but I need to really explore what this person's about. Because I've met pretty women who they look great, and then as soon as they start talking, their voice sounds weird, or they'll tell me about some kind of, habit they have or some kind of hang up they have about guys or whatever, and it instantly turns me off. So, and that comes with age. Honestly, for a guy that's 18, most of his attraction is going to be based solely on looks. And as you get older and you have more experience, you find that looks really do not matter in the long term, because you figure if a woman's single, that means there was a point where somebody was dating her and they probably got rid of her and dumped her, which means he couldn't handle her anymore, or maybe she dumped him. But either way, over time, as that look becomes more familiar, that fineness factor isn't really there as much. Like, if you date a girl for 5 or 6 months versus 5 or 6 years, after 5 or 6 years, they're going to still look good. But the newness of that good looking, now that it's become the norm, means that there's going to be other people out there that are going to look better. And so that's why you don't want to base your feelings on how somebody looks, because as looks become more familiar to you, you're going to find new women more attractive. And you have to make a commitment to say, even though I find them more attractive, this was the one I want to stay with. But in terms of the dating aspect, for you guys that are trying to get past this, just remember, when you look at somebody's prettiness, that is a mask, that is a shell, that is not a thing that's going to last long term. You need to see that, recognize it for what it is, which is a means by which to turn you on, and then go into the realistic side, which is, okay, this is turning me on because she looks hot, but what else is there? And just having the mission of figuring out what else is there is going to allow you to ideally calm some of that nervousness down. Now that you've heard from me, I'd like to hear from you. How do you handle yourself when talking to pretty women? If you're watching this on YouTube, leave a comment down below or write to me at HarryWilmington@gmail.com. Are you ready to learn killer icebreakers that attract women online? Go to introvertdatingsuccess.com right now and watch my free video training, How to Get Attractive, Feminine, Emotionally Stable Women Dying to Respond to Your First Messages on Dating Apps Without Using Sleazy Pickup Lines, which will give you all the tips and insights you need to spark attraction and conversations with women online the smart way. Be sure to like, share, subscribe, and comment on this video, and catch new episodes 7 days a week right here on YouTube or wherever podcasts can be found. In the meantime, check out some of these other episodes so that you too can learn how to date as your introverted self while still getting your precious alone time. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you next time. Peace.